Quentin Lake, welcome to the Victor Degree podcast.
And I'm fantastic right now. Just got off
Yeah,
a great day, excited. But thank you for having me on.
now the pleasure is all mine. We already kind of got this out the way, but for the audience, we're gonna get it out the way because we're gonna have a nice conversation and we're gonna be friends and everything's gonna be great. Um, I am a 49ers fan. People who listen to the podcast know that. You play for the Rams. I'm assuming a lot of people know that and are familiar with your game.
Yeah.
So I do have to ask you, and again, we'll just get this out the way. How does it feel playing 4 away games against the Niners every year?
And you know what's so funny about that? It's like so funny story. You get into the NFL and you're thinking, man, great fan base. Coming from UCLA, the fan base was okay. But then when you get to the Rams, you're like, oh my God, we're gonna have all these fans come out. Going to SoFi against the 49ers, and I didn't know, like, mind you, I didn't really know anything about the rivalry or anything like that. Get into SoFi and I'm like, dang, there's a lot of 49ers fans. Like, okay, I kind of understand that. And this is like pregame, so I'm like, oh, okay, like this might be normal. They might come out early. We get to the game and like we're coming out of the tunnel and I'm like, why do I hear more boos and cheers? And then you run out of the tunnel and I'm telling you, a sea of red. So to your point about playing 4 away games against the 49ers, it's crazy. Um, I mean, they show up. They have a great fan base. They show up. They're kind of like ride or die with the 49ers. Unfortunately, they didn't have a great season last year. We went
This is good, but this is
two
good.
2-0 against them last year, but
Yeah,
you know, it is interesting. They do pack it out. What do they call it? They call it
the faithful.
Levi South.
Oh, Levi South. Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
crazy. That's wild. We got to change that though. That's good.
yeah.
That got to be changed for sure.
Well, it's tough too. Like all jokes aside, it's tough too because like LA, and I've always talked about this with my friends. Like LA is a vacation destination. So I mean, 49ers, it's a little bit different because it's close. It's like a 4 hour drive. But like for teams, like if the Bills are playing at LA, a
Hmm.
lot of their fans are gonna want to go to that game because they get to vacation in LA for that weekend, make it like this whole trip. Like
Hmm.
not a lot of people want to go, no offense, but not a lot of people want to go to like Buffalo, especially in the
Yeah.
winter,
Yeah.
right? For like to go support their team. So like
Yeah.
it does make it tough. Vegas has the same issue where it's like, everybody wants to go to Vegas. So,
Yeah.
hence there's always a ton of away fans at their games.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
guys do have that. I guess it's an advantage and also a disadvantage.
Yeah, like with all the teams, like I can name all the teams: the Eagles, the Vikings, the Steelers, Packers. All these teams that don't have anything to do in their city and are kind of like all football related, meaning football towns like Buffalo or like Minnesota, where it's not like vacationy. It's really they just have their kind of football team or the sports teams. They're like, of course, I'm gonna buy a ticket to LA. I might make a weekend out of it, and hopefully, I see my team win. That's kind of like the mindset I get. So that's why all these teams they come out, and it's like, why is LA so packed? Is because to your point, it's a hotspot destination for fans that want to come out and not only enjoy Los Angeles for what Los Angeles has to offer, but also see their team. So I get it. Is it unfortunate sometimes? Yes, but are we used to it at this point? Yeah, like if you can ask any other player other than myself, it doesn't really bother us at this point anymore because we know what it is.
Yeah. That was gonna be my next question is like, does it actually bother you? Like, do you get pissed? Like, does it affect, I mean, listen, crowd noise, I get it, it's part of the game, but I'm assuming it doesn't like actually affect like your performance on the field.
No, it doesn't. On defense, you kind of want the atmosphere and the crowd to kind of go wild for your side because it messes up the offensive tendencies. Offense can't hear snap count, they can't hear cadence, so that plays a little bit of favor on the defensive side. But to your point, it doesn't really bother us. And honestly, I love like personally, I love away games. I love away games just because if you go into an opponent stadium and you silence the crowd, that is one of the best feelings ever. Like even if you think about in Little League when you went to, a rowdy crowd and you were the away team, the same thing. it is a fantastic feeling when you can hear a pin drop, especially in front of 60 plus thousand fans. Like that feeling is almost addictive. So you almost get that same feeling at home, which isn't right. It's not, I'm not going to say it's right, but you almost do when you get these big crowds or fan bases that come out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just had Cesar Ruiz on the podcast, and I asked him like, "Does crowd noise affect you guys?" And he's like, "Yeah, for the whole line, it affects us a ton because
Yeah.
like you're used to hearing the cadence, you're used to hearing communication, especially across the line. But
Mm-hmm.
you go into some of these like loud stadiums. I mean, the Saints were, I mean, one of the toughest environments to play in
Yeah.
for a long time. But like you go into these loud stadiums, and it's like all of a sudden like everything's off. And like I remember when we used to go up to Seattle, we as in the 49ers, because I'm obviously a part of the team. But when we used to go up to Seattle, like we would blast music during practice,
Yeah.
like the just to try and simulate some of the environment.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it didn't help that I feel like Kaepernick was pretty bad with communication
Yeah.
in loud environments, so
Yeah.
probably wasn't too good. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm always interested in like how the players react to it because we as fans, like I love it obviously, but like we're not on the field, we're not making plays.
Yeah.
So interesting. All right, well we got that out the way, so now we can have like an actual good conversation.
Yeah,
We can
yeah,
be
yeah.
friends now. But no, I one of my best friends is a huge Rams fan. He's from LA, obviously. So
Awesome.
we go back and forth all the time. I wanted to get to your journey to football, and I think it's a quite unique one because you essentially stayed in LA for both college and also now obviously professionally. It kind of worked out well in that way. Your dad was also Steelers Hall of Famer, all decade team, just an amazing NFL talent. So let's maybe start there. Just the influence that your dad had on football. And did you ever feel like you needed to play football because he did?
Yeah, I was always into sports, regardless of if it was football, basketball, baseball. I grew up around sports. The pressure aspect in terms of my dad having all this success, it wasn't pressure, it's something I wanted to live up to. A lot of the times you get into certain situations where you have, a father in the league or a father had success, and that can be a lot of pressure for the son. But really, it just depends on how you see it. For me, I saw it as a great opportunity to live up to someone I thought was my role model. And you can ask anybody, or, he's my guy. My dad is my guy. Like, he is my role model and has been my role model since day one. So when I saw his success, all the things that he did, not only in college, but in the NFL as well, like, I just was like, this is the path I want to do. Now, did I know it was going to be exactly like that? No. Did I know I was going to be, a versatile DB just like he was in the NFL? No. But I knew for a fact I wanted to go to the NFL, and he was a big reason why. Um, so there's a lot of things that he did that I wanted to do. UCLA, going to UCLA was one of them too. Um, DB, that was just a burden put on me just because of him, and I accepted it. It was fine with me. I enjoyed it, and obviously, I think I did. I'm doing pretty well for myself right now. So, yeah, I never felt the pressure. People ask me all the time, like, "Man, like, do you feel like you have to live up to this pressure with all the accolades and this and that?" And no, I mean, at this point, I'm still trying to form my own legacy, and there's a couple things that my dad hasn't done that I have the opportunity to do. So, it's still early in my career. I'm excited for it, but yeah, I love the path that he kind of paved for me.
It's interesting too because it's on top of mind for me too because I obviously seeing what Bronny has gone through a little bit with the media, obviously with LeBron. I mean, you're in LA, so you see it, but I can only imagine like the pressure that he's feeling,
Yeah,
or maybe he's not feeling because I've never talked to him. But I'm assuming there's some level of pressure where it's like,
yeah,
arguably the best basketball player of all time. Like he's my dad, and also
yeah,
by the way, my name is Bronny
yeah,
James. Like it. I don't know. Like I sometimes feel bad for him, especially the way that the media treats him, and just I mean, fans are always gonna say crap, but
yeah.
just like having to go through that, I can only imagine what that experience is like.
Yeah, and Bronny's situation is like that's LeBron James,
Right.
That's it's I would say there's different levels to it. for example, like Shador, right? Shador doesn't play DB. So you're not necessarily going to say, "Hey, live up to your dad," just due to the fact that he didn't. They're not playing the same position. In basketball, it's a little bit different. Like Bronny and LeBron, you can see him. Okay, is he a like he doesn't necessarily have a true identity of what he is as a player. Is he a more of a defender? Is he a is he a slasher? Can he spot up three? I think he's still kind of going through that identity phase right now in the NFL or in the NBA, which I think he's doing a great job. Obviously, the opportunities that he had, he's capitalized on those, and then he's been dominating in the G League. But I think it's really subjective to everybody. From my example, like yeah, like I'm playing the same position as my dad, and then it really depends on are you having the same success, Are you doing well? Like if I went into the league and I was a bust or I just had, didn't pan out, that would have been different. The narrative would have been different around it, but it's really subjective. You even look at Pat Surtain. Like Pat Surtain, he's killing it right now. His dad played in the NFL. Asante Samuel, same thing. Like there are guys, J.C. Horn, same thing. Like if you look, if you kind of, there's kind of a trend. Like the guys that have had fathers in the NFL, they tend to pan out pretty well because they had the resources to, they had the blueprint to be successful. So it really just depends on really the player, the person, and all that stuff.
You talked about trying to form your own identity. Did that I'm curious, did that stop you from taking advice from your dad because you wanted to be like your own person, or were you just like open, all ears, tell me everything you know?
Oh, I was all ears. I mean, we in college and even today, like we go home and we can have a film session and talk about ball. Like ball is our love language. So, when I say I want to create my own legacy, I already know I'm not him. And that's the first step. I'm not trying to be him, but I'm trying to follow in the footsteps of who he was as a person, as a player, and as a man. So you're not saying I want to be exactly like him. I want to do every single little thing. It's no, I want to be a good father. I want to be a good player. Well, what does it take to be a good player? What are the things that he did? Relentless on the field, hard hitter, crazy work ethic. And using all those different attributes, you'll naturally form your own identity, but you're still using the same things that he did, hard work, same thing. Relentless effort, same thing. He always gives me acronyms, and he talks about controllables. And this goes back into the point of creating my own identity is these are things that he taught me were you can control your attitude, you can control your effort, and you can control your preparation. And those are things that he did to be successful, and he's passing those things down for me. Now I'm going to follow them, but am I doing it exactly the same way? No, I'm creating it with my own life and my own thing. And that's what I think creating your own legacy is utilizing the lessons that you learn from somebody like that, but doing it in your own way.
You mentioned you and your dad do it for the love of the game. For someone who is not as in love with football as you and your dad are, like
Yeah.
how would you describe that love to someone else?
The love I would say is kind of the first time you learn how to ride a bike. And I'm assuming everybody knows that moment where they and I want to relate it kind of like to that father relationship in terms of like the love. So you remember somebody, whether it was your dad or maybe your uncle, grandfather, it might have been your mom, it could have been an aunt, but that first time when you learned how to be able to ride a bike on your own is kind of like that feeling of joy, passion is the same way I think like me and my dad's relationship is. It's a lot of joy and passion, especially in the same interest. Like that's kind of the feeling I have for that. Or if you want to talk about, you know, the first time you ate your favorite meal, like the love and passion in kind of like that first time feeling. Whenever we talk about ball, or like we talk really about anything, like it's that same kind of feeling. So that's like the best kind of visual I can give you. Obviously, there's deeper layers to it, but um, yeah, me and him, like, and our relationship is still growing. Like, there was a point in time where he was coaching for the Steelers, and I wasn't seeing him all the time, and I wasn't talking to him as frequently as I was now. But now, because I have a lot more access to him, and I can call him, and he's really seeing me kind of live out this life that I, you know, envisioned. Now our relationship is getting a lot better, and we're talking about not just ball, but now different things, and it's been great. Like, what the relationship we have right now is fantastic.
I love asking this question because I've gotten so many different responses, but I'll ask it and then I'll tailor it specifically to you. The question is, if your life was simulated 1,000 times,
Yeah.
in how many of those simulations would you end up exactly where you are today? And specifically tailored for you, I guess maybe like another layer on that would be like if your dad wasn't who he was and wasn't in the NFL, do you think you would have, like, do you think it was destiny that you were going to get to the NFL no matter what? Or was it mostly, shaped and molded by your dad's experience and your dad's guidance?
Yeah. I always had an affinity towards sports, like I said. If I were to do my life simulated 1,000 times, I might have been in the NBA.
Okay.
Basketball was my first love. So, and I'm thinking about, like, there's like key and critical moments in your life where if you say yes or you make a decision, it could totally change the direction of where you're going. Well, I had an injury or in basketball that made me want to play football. So, if I didn't have that injury, you kind of think about, okay, what would my life, would I just have fully dived into basketball? Because that's really what I loved. And then I would say this too, if um, I very, very sternly considered leaving UCLA 1 year earlier. And that was another thing, like, oh, what if? What if I left a year earlier? Would I have got drafted? Would things have panned out necessarily the way I wanted to? And that was right after, that was the COVID year. So that was another big what if too. And then the last thing in terms of my dad, like, I had a love of sports regardless. So I think I would have been around sports. Now I do not know. If you were to just take sports out of my life just from the jump, I would have been a video gamer though. 100%. Love, 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 love. I love video games. So just gaming in general. So that would be maybe another path. I might have been professional gamer, streamer, whatever. But no, who knows?
Yeah, I think I see the Call of Duty on your chair. So
Yeah,
yeah,
custom,
nice.
custom.
Custom.
Subtle flex, subtle flex,
Subtle flex.
with the initials, but
With the
you know,
QL. All
yeah,
right.
no.
All right. I see it. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, I really like your point about like those critical moments. And it's interesting because like if you ask people, like I think everybody knows the 2 to 3 moments,
Yeah,
where, because like you just listed off 3 critical moments,
yeah,
I guess 2 really, and then your dad, but like right off the bat, like you immediately knew, you're like, okay, if this had gone this way, if then who knows, maybe I'm in the NBA, maybe I'm not even drafted, maybe I'm playing for the Niners.
yeah.
So
But
it's like,
people can go. Anybody can go in their life and say, "What if I did? What if I went the other way?" And I at least once people can go like, "Okay, what if that happened?" Or let's say you didn't make a decision, but somebody else affected you. Well, what if they did this? How would I have reacted? I believe anybody can go in their life and be like, my life would have been different for sure.
yeah. What was the injury though that kept you from playing basketball?
Oh, I tore my ACL when I was young.
Oh, okay.
When I was
Yeah.
in eighth grade, going into my freshman year of high school. hmm And
And
so
then
I was
that
like,
was,
yeah, that was it. That was it.
and that's what catapulted you into football.
hmm
And were you a DB high school? Like that was all you, like you had your
Yep.
sights set on that?
That's all I played. I played DB in
Dang.
high school.
It's interesting because most people in high school, they want to play receiver or running back or quarterback,
Yep.
one of like the flashy positions. But you were just always set like DB's my game.
DB's my game.
Love it, man. So like high school, like you obviously went to UCLA, but like high school football,
hmm
at what point did you realize that you're like, okay, maybe this football thing could, and maybe it wasn't high school, maybe it was at UCLA, but when did you
Yeah.
realize you're like, okay, this football thing could actually work out?
In terms of going to the NFL,
Yeah.
it was in high school. One of the reasons why I went to the high school that I wanted to was kind of to set me up to the NFL. I went to Modern Day High School, which is top high school in California. And they've won national championships there as well. But I knew if I went to my local high school, it would have been hard. Not to say that it wouldn't have happened, but it definitely would have been more difficult in terms of the path. Like you look at my high school, we got Bryce Young came out of there, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and those are just two big names already. Like the guy that won the Heisman and then one of the top paid receivers in the NFL, So um I definitely kind of figured out like, wait, you know, maybe I have a shot. And it really happened at like my senior year. That's when the offer started coming. Because when you're early on in high school, you're like, man, I'm just doing it for the love of the game. Like, love playing football. But then you start seeing like, wait, I can go to college full ride potentially and do this at the next level. And then wait, then you hear stories of if you do it well enough in the collegiate level, you can go and play, in the NFL. So the dream that you had as a kid early on really starts churning. It starts churning, and I think that moment started happening. I would say in between, late junior year going into my senior season of high school.
And then you get to you get to UCLA. Just it always fascinates me. I had Josh Dobbs on the podcast, and
Yeah,
he went to Tennessee, and he did aeros. Like he famous for astronaut wanting to go work at NASA, and
yeah,
he did aerospace engineering at Tennessee.
hmm
Had like a 4.0, which is crazy for like I did aerospace engineering actually. That's why I wanted to have him on the podcast. And like just doing aerospace was
yeah,
a nightmare. I can only imagine like doing aerospace. Oh, and then also you're the starting quarterback for the
yeah,
University of Tennessee.
yeah,
Also, not like a small school, like the University of Tennessee, right? So
yeah,
like
yeah,
but like one thing that he always talked about was like I had my discipline, like I had my priorities, I had my
hmm
routine, like I stuck to that stuff. Again, just had Caesar Ruiz on podcast. He talked about the exact same thing. And I
hmm
was like, all right, I'm starting to notice a trend. Like the players who were successful in college, who made it to the NFL, it seems like they were disciplined, had a routine, had their
yeah,
priorities straight. Do you feel like you had a similar experience, or did you do it differently?
yeah. Same thing. I mean, you get to a point where routine's just natural. Wake up at the same time. I'm gonna go to practice. I'm gonna eat. I'm gonna study. I think the reason, at least for me, the biggest reason why a routine helps is because it doesn't let outside distraction intervene into your ultimate goal. So if you're consistently doing stuff on time, the same thing at the same time, there's not a lot of things that can really get in the way unless you actively go out and do it. So guys that have had success, whether it's Josh Dobbs being an aerospace engineer or whoever, if you just have this consistent work ethic, and really consistency is the truest measure of performance. So if you're able to do it each and every day, you're bound to progress in something. And I think it goes, I mean, same thing with me, like even to this day, I have the same routine. Wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go in, do whatever I need to, and you eventually over time see the results. They say Rome wasn't built in a day. It's the same thing. It is the same exact thing. So I think you look at anybody that is successful, they have a routine. There's this new guy, Ashton Hall. He talks about waking up at 3:30 in the morning. But you think about it like, dang, 3:30. Like some people go to bed at that time, but he has a routine and it works for him, and he's being successful. So to your point in terms of the trend, it's not necessarily a trend; it's a fact. And there's a book I would highly recommend. Go read Outliers. Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, I believe,
Yep.
talks about certain outliers that you would think would be a fluke, but there's a common trend in each and every situation. And I think that's the same thing about routine or guys that are successful, they have routine.
Couldn't agree more, man. You brought up Ashton Hall, and I mean, he obviously became a meme, and like people were clowning him
Yeah,
and stuff. But like, I also think that a lot of people clown people like that because they're insecure about their own life and they're
thousand
insecure
percent.
about their own lack of a routine. And so listen, like you see this guy who obviously is doing very well for himself, is jacked, like is in shape, and it's like it's easier to make fun of him than it is to change anything about your own life.
Yeah.
Like it's easier for me to sit here and be
Yeah.
like, damn Quentin, like you have this routine, like
Yeah.
that's, you're a loser or whatever. Like it's easier for me to like, belittle you like that instead of
Yeah.
taking a step back and being like, okay, so what can I learn from Quentin? Like, should I
Yeah.
have a routine? Can I do stuff to implement in my life that could help me out? So I don't know. It's like, I think a lot of people are insecure. And so when they see people who have it, put together, they're like, it's
Yeah.
just easier to lash out at them.
Success can be intimidating. And to be honest, when you see somebody doing something tough, doing something uncomfortable, if you are insecure, like you said, there can be the easiest resort is to be resentful or to make fun of it because that's the easiest thing to do. Oh, he's not, that's fake. Or, oh, the lifestyle he's living, he doesn't actually do it. But then he continues to post videos of him doing it. And he's also told his story of him transforming his life into this. Um, so that's what I think is a lot of people, there are a lot of hard things that people don't necessarily want to do because they're difficult. People would rather just live in comfort than to challenge themselves consistently.
Well, and also like if you look at like your own journey as an example, you started playing football when? Like when's the first time you started playing?
Football I started was in, I want to say like tackle was in third grade. So I was maybe eight, eight-ish, 8, 9, 10 maybe.
So 8 years old, you're 26 right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is that? 18 years. So you've been
Mm-hmm.
playing football 18 years. You've
Yeah.
been practicing football for 18 years.
Yeah.
Let's say you've been seriously, like quote unquote, seriously practicing football since high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. At least like 10 years of like a consistent routine, training regimen, right? Like all of those things. It took you that long to get to where you are today, which
Yeah.
is a fantastic player and arguably, one of, if not the best safeties in the league. You're definitely getting up there.
Yeah.
Like people forget that like things take time. To your point, Rome was not built in a day.
Mm-hmm.
Like I hear people like podcasting is such a perfect example of this where
Yeah.
people start a podcast, they post 3 episodes and they're like, why am I not Joe Rogan?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, Joe Rogan's been podcasting since like 2008 or whatever. Like he has over
A long
3,000
time.
episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Like just an incredible time. So like to your point about consistency, I think another aspect of that is like give yourself a long enough time horizon. Like
Yeah.
give yourself enough time to actually start to see some of the fruits of your labor.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people struggle because especially in today's day and age where it's like you pull up your phone, instant dopamine, you go on TikTok, there's a new video every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Like we're just used to everything being so quick and
Yeah.
happening overnight. Whereas like overnight success, and I think athletes are a perfect example of this. Find me an athlete that started playing their sport, a year or 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it just
It
doesn't.
doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't happen. And to your point about society's like pushing this narrative of quick, quick, quick. I like indirectly TikTok, YouTube Shorts. There's. It's like we're wiring ourselves for this quick dopamine entertainment, and we want to apply it into everything in our lives, but we don't take a step back and say, "Hey, wait, 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 wait." You have to consistently work on things. You think? Imagine this. Imagine you go in you need brain surgery and the surgeon says, "Oh yeah, I've only been doing this for a year." You would be like, "Oh, he's not touching me." What do you mean? There is a sense of value in having experience in doing things over and over and over again. Not only is it trust, but there's credibility. And to your point about talking about, things being wanting to be reactive, like there have been certain cases where people have just hit it like, and those are such one-offs though, whether it like you see it in streaming, you might see it in YouTube. I think in like the internet space it's easier because you can there's some viralness to it. You can go viral and then boom, you're off to the races. It was like a boom of that happening really after COVID. Like you just saw so many different people just boom over one year. But does it really last? And that is the question. You might have this viral moment or, viral year, but do people do it consistently? And that is why, to your point, if you work on it and you have years of experience, the more often than not, you'll outlast the people that just go viral or do it like have this, short-term success.
Oh, and you'll appreciate it a lot more too. Like,
Yeah.
because you understand how much effort it took to build and how much effort it went, just total effort went into it. And you're like, wow, I'm sure you as a football player, you're like, you appreciate your skills way more than if let's imagine I were to just like drop you on the Rams,
Yeah.
like without knowing anything. And I just
Mhm.
gave you like a shot and all of a sudden you had all the skills that you have now. Like, I guarantee you would appreciate that a lot less than you currently do
For
because you
sure.
understand the work that went into it, the years of sacrifice, all that, like the culmination of all those things. And
Yeah.
now you're the starting safety for the Rams, right? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah. Sometimes there's not a lot of value in just getting things in one day. Like there's so much enjoyment looking back at how far you've came, the setbacks, the obstacles that you had to overcome. There's so many different moments that give you gratitude and say, man, look at 2, 3 years ago where I was at. I even could say that about my career too. Like you look at my rookie year, I was injured half the season, and to think I would be in the point where I am today, especially in the NFL, you're so thankful, you know, because if I were to sit here, man, a bunch of money in the bank, I'm the best, whatever, but I didn't work for it. To me, there's no satisfaction in that. In the enjoyment, you don't have, like you said, there's no appreciation for what you have because you didn't necessarily work for it.
we talked about consistency, and obviously with that comes giving yourself enough time. I think another huge thing that I think oftentimes is undervalued is the role of self belief.
Yeah.
I'm curious from your perspective, just the level of confidence that you have and the level of self belief that you have in yourself, and how big of a factor that's been in your success.
Yeah. Confidence, it's so funny. A veteran told me this when I first got into the NFL. Confidence is 90% of it. The self belief that you talk about is more than half the battle. And fear, a lot of the times, you talk about what Michael Jordan says, you will miss every single shot that you don't take. So why would you be worried about it if you're not even in that position? If you're not even, if you're not even in that position, like, and Steph Curry, there's a lot of basketball references, and actually Coach McVay used a great one. He said that you have to be comfortable in the unpredictability of the result and just going for it. Meaning sometimes there's certain instances where you don't know what's going to happen. If you're shooting a game-winning shot, you don't necessarily know if it's going to go in or out, but you're comfortable with the outcome whether it goes in or out. And at that point you just go for it. So to talk about confidence and self-belief, the more you are consistent, the more you train, the more you are confident and comfortable and believe in yourself because you've done it over and over and over again. I'm sure, Nicola, it's the same thing in podcasting. It's the same thing in interviewing. The more interviews you do, the more smooth it goes, the more questions you know how to ask, you kind of know how to navigate a conversation, the temperature of, hey, is this the right question to ask? How can I lead this conversation into another point that I want to address? It's the same thing. Whether it's football or whether it's podcasting, interviewing, whatever, the amount of times that you do it over and over again, humans are meant for repetition. That's just the way we're built. We are meant to do things repetitively because we get comfortable and confident in them. So, I mean, yeah, the more repetition you have, the more things you do from it, you're literally bound to get better.
I couldn't have said it better myself, man. And you brought up podcasting, interviewing. I mean, there's so many things that go into it that people don't realize. It's like, it's not only, I mean, to your point, a big part of it is like the question, like, how do I lead the questions? But another big aspect of it is like, what's the body language of my guest?
Mm-hmm.
Like, does he seem engaged? Like, does he seem bored? Like, is he yawning? Does he seem like he's having a good time? Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, when I asked him this specific question, it seems like he got more energy. So like
Hmm.
he probably likes to talk about that subject. Or like when we started talking about this, he gave me short answers. So it's like all these things that your brain is processing that you cannot a lot of times consciously think about. Like I don't now, to your point, like I don't consciously think about any of those things, but
Exactly.
they just kind of come out.
Yeah.
Probably same with you on the field. Like
Hmm.
you're not consciously thinking about like how do I tackle this specific player in this
Yeah.
specific instance.
Yeah.
You just know and you go
Yeah.
and do it.
Yeah.
But to your point, like none of that like if we would have been having this interview when I was like 5 interviews in, like the fifth episode, I would have been a nervous wreck. I would have, I don't know, said something stupid. Like
Yeah.
the opening joke would not have gone over as well.
Yeah.
Like it would
Yeah.
have been a mess, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but that comes from confidence. Like,
Hmm.
and like now I'm confident that I know what I'm doing. Like I've like people have said I'm good at it. Like I've gotten good feedback. So I'm like, all right. And I believe in myself. I'm like, I truly think that I'm good at this. So let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
But yeah,
There's two sides to that too. And I'm glad you said feedback because the definition of insanity is doing something over and over again and expecting the same result. So there's like, well, of course you want a repetition, but if you're doing something over and over again and it's not working, okay, you got to pivot,
yep.
And then if you do something that is good, okay, how can I repeat that success? So that was an interesting point you said about feedback, but I mean, all of what you said is true.
Yeah. I want to read you this quote from Michael Jordan that I have written down. That's related to just preparation, and you're mentioning fear. He says it's the same process for doing anything, anywhere in life, no matter how big or small the stage. Whether it's running a corporation, taking a test in second grade, or taking a shot to win a game, at that moment you are the sum total of all the work you have put in, nothing more
Mhm.
and nothing less. If you are confident you have done everything possible to prepare yourself, then there's nothing to fear.
Yeah, yeah, and like we've been talking about, like the accumulation of all the work that you put in, you have to at that point I mean, there's gonna be there might be a little anxiety, there might be a little fear, but you just at that point have to be like, man, I'm confident in myself. I'm gonna go for it because of the thousands and thousands of hours that I've worked on my craft, that I've been in the gym or on the field. Um, and that's one of the reasons why Michael Jordan was so successful because he applied that mindset and mentality and work ethic into those moments where he needed to be the best version of himself.
Speaking of culmination of work, I'm assuming that a lot of the culmination of your work kind of ended up being on draft night back in
Yeah.
2022 when you got drafted by the Rams,
Hmm.
sixth round pick. Just listen, we as fans obviously are never going to go through it.
Yeah.
Getting the call, realizing that you're going to this NFL team,
Yeah.
just like thoughts, feelings, emotions. What was that night like for you?
Yeah, it's really hard to kind of explain that feeling to somebody that hasn't been in it, but you try to give an analogy, you're just really waiting and waiting and waiting. And you kind of have like a general idea of, okay, this is where I'm gonna go. And then you're calling your agent like, hey, where am I gonna go? What are teams saying and this and that. But in terms of my draft experience, I kind of knew, hey, I was going day three. We had the biggest draft class in the history of the NFL. A lot of guys were going to get pushed down. So, obviously, I watched the first 2 days, saw some people that I played with, teammates, or just, people in the football realm. Um, but when you get to, rounds 5 through 7, you're like, or if rounds 4 through 7, you're like, okay, you really hope your time's coming because you do want to get drafted. You have to think about it. If there's, let's just say for 7 rounds, a team has 7 picks. The owner, GM, assistant GM, vice president, whoever you want to call it, they actively chose one spot for you to draft. And that means a lot. And so as a player, you're like, man, you really, really want to get drafted. Not only for that moment of all the hard work and all that stuff to be, you want the fruits of your labor, but more so, there's a little bit of security in that too. And so, when the Rams called me, I saw it was a 310 number, and crazy. I'm from California. I'm like, what is this number? But then you see like Los Angeles on the top, or you see, I think at that point it was Thousand Oaks. I'm like, man, I've been in SoCal. I've never been up there. But they called me and they said, hey, we want to take you with this pick. We're gonna draft you, and kind of almost all that weight is off your shoulders in terms of you're at a place. Now the work is not necessarily done, but like, man, a team took a chance on me and I'm ready to kind of do the best I can to not only make myself proud and the people that around me proud, but to prove myself to the organization and make them proud as well. So drafted is a very, very nerve-wracking experience, but also at the same time, an experience I'll never forget.
So now you're you're on the Rams. Being a 6th round pick, though, I have to imagine that there's like a different level of pressure. Like just like there's pressure on 1st round guys because they have all this talent and they're expected to perform right away. Being a later round pick, I've talked to other NFL athletes and they're like, there's a different level of pressure because your leash is a lot shorter than somebody drafted in rounds 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel that additional pressure?
I didn't feel the pressure. I think being a later round guy, you're on shorter of a leash, but like to me the hard part was done. Like the hard part to me was okay. It was getting drafted. Now what do I need to do to stay here? And that's the biggest thing. I mean, NFL stands for not for long, and it is how you maximize your ability to stay on the field, whether that's in the film room, whether that's your freakish athletic ability and maximizing that. Each player has a different way of, or a different process of how they can do that. And so for me, I was like, I always thought, what's gonna keep me on the field the longest? I've had injuries, so I told myself availability, being injury free. And I think people talk about all the time, your best ability is your availability. And I made that one of my core values. Really, honestly, for anybody, that should be one of their core values, in terms of playing this sport because you're bound to get something. You can ask any NFL player, whether it's a jammed finger, jammed toe, hamstring pull, soft tissue injury, whatever. It is literally almost 100% guaranteed. But how quick can you recover from that? How quick can you make that turnaround? Um, and so the pressure being a 6th round guy, I feel like I already beat the odds. Being a 6th round guy and getting it this far, the hard part is done. So now what is it next? What are my eyes set on now? Is it proving that I'm one of the best safeties? Is it proving, that I can lead a, championship winning team? So now there's different goals that I have my eyes set on now.
And also for you, like you came into an interesting situation because the Rams were just coming off their Super Bowl win. So you're coming onto this roster, which is already pretty good, and you're coming onto a roster with guys like Stafford and Cooper Kupp and all the guys that they had. I'm assuming that also is like a different level of like maybe pressure is the wrong word, but intimidation maybe. Like, did you feel intimidated at all coming into that type of room?
Yeah, I mean, you almost not intimidation, but there is a sense of like there are a lot of eyes. There are a lot of eyes on you. You just won the Super Bowl. Now is it you and that during that off season we had some new additions. So is it like, hey, are you guys going to be able to do it again? And so it's honestly less pressure for the rookie class because you're like, okay, how do I integrate myself into an already really good team? And for me, it was like, what's going to separate me? What are things that are going to separate me or make me different from the pack? And I think that was just putting in extra time in the film room, trying to understand every single different position in terms of the back end. And I didn't necessarily feel the pressure, but I understood, hey, there are going to be a lot of, whether it's media, whether it's coaches, or whether it's just people around the league, there are going to be a lot of eyes on this team. And so, what do I need to do so that when my time comes, I can capitalize on the opportunity? And I think I found that through just putting in extra hours in the film room and trying to be as versatile as possible.
I want to ask you this because I feel like it always gets thrown. I feel like the NBA, especially when it comes to like draft night and picks and how they pan out, there's always like the debate of like, if only a certain player had gone to this type of team instead of
Yeah,
this type of team, their career would have panned out differently. Like
yeah,
I had Deshaun Kaiser on, and he like very candidly spoke about it on the podcast, and he was like, "Listen, like if I get drafted to any other team but the Browns, I may still be a starting
yeah.
quarterback in the league and a damn good one." So like, there's always that debate of like, is it the play? Like, is it do the players have the freedom to fulfill their full potential, or is it their surroundings? Is it the team that contribute a majority of that potential and infuse that player with that potential? I'm curious from your perspective, just thoughts on that.
Yeah, you definitely like being in the right organization can definitely maximize your potential. There's some organizations player will tell you, whew, and then there are other organizations you kind of understand why they've been successful time and time again. And so, yeah, if you can, it is very, very, very situational. Very like I've seen a ton of great players just not be in the best situation, and you're like, dang, it just didn't pan out, you know. And it's hard because there's not a lot you can do. Like it's not like you can be like, man, I just don't want to play for this team. No, you can't do that. Sorry. Like, but then I think the best advice to give is how adaptable can you be, as for yourself. Because if your surrounding environment isn't allowing you necessarily to be successful, then what can I do to adapt to make myself, successful? And it might be like if I were on a different team, my floor might be up here, but if I'm on another team, my floor might be up here, but this is 100%, you know? And I think that's just the tough part about like the NFL is if you're in a great situation, man, you can really maximize it. If you're in a bad situation, it is very, very tough to maximize it. And you might maximize your potential there, but it might not be your full potential. So it is tough, man. The NFL it's very situational in some of the organizations that you go to. And there are obviously one offs to everything, but you definitely want to try and put yourself in the best possible situation, regardless.
Brings up a lot of what ifs. I mean, we talked about, if you simulate your life 1,000
Yeah,
times, but like to your point, like there's so many, like Deshaun Kaiser, just one example. Like there's so many players who could have panned out way differently. Jamarcus Russell is like
yeah.
another guy who comes to mind, who maybe, wrong organization, wrong time. I'm curious
Barry
though, because
Barry
like,
Sanders, think about that.
yeah, yeah, very true. Yeah,
So I mean,
yeah,
but that's a guy who Hall of Famer, right?
right,
His team was just bad.
right.
You look at Joe Thomas, never went to playoffs, but
That's wild.
He's a Hall of Famer. Like
Right.
so, you can maximize yourself as a player, but then what? Same thing we were talking about. What if?
Yeah.
What if?
Um, I'm curious. We talked about what makes. I mean, you alluded to a little bit coming into a good organization. Good culture is like the word that always gets thrown around. It's like that team has great culture.
Hmm.
You're on a team who, in my opinion, and I think this aligns with the opinions of many, has a great culture from top to bottom. McVay is a fantastic coach, great
Hmm.
ownership, great GM, just top to bottom, and you see it reflected in the success that you guys have had.
Yeah.
What do you think makes a good culture or a great organization?
Yeah, first you want to have you just need to have the right people in the building. And I think the right people are people that buy in 100% into that culture. And it really starts with setting a foundation. We have a bunch of words around our building, and I'll share one right now. It's we're built for it. Um, and then we have another one is we then me, the work, the enthusiasm, um, the I don't want to mess this up, but we have a whole I have it written down. We have a whole bunch of acronyms that kind of embody our culture. Um, and there are a ton of things that if players buy in, you see the success. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Rams have done such a great job is you have the right guys in the building that just buy in. You look at you think about it, we only have one first round pick on our defense. And you'd be like, "Really?" Like so they're not only are they able to find guys that fit the system, find guys that fit the culture, but you also find guys that just totally buy in. And not only is it that, but it's the coaching staff. We have a great coaching staff. Like you said, Sean McVay is a great coach, and you have a great scouting department. You have a great owner who's had success with other teams as well. You have a fantastic GM, fantastic assistant GM, and vice president. So um, it really trickles down, really from top to bottom. And I think that's what makes a fantastic organization. But culture is everything. If you don't have the right foundation, it doesn't matter how great your players are or who you have on your team. If you have, a strong, sturdy foundation, you can really, and you bring the right guys in and guys buy in, I mean, the sky is the limit.
We mentioned his name several times, but everyone considers him a fantastic head coach. His, I mean, numbers speak for themselves. The success, just Sean McVay. Like, what is he like as a coach? I'm assuming as a friend, as a mentor. Like, just Sean McVay, the person, and as a head coach, what is Sean like?
One of the best coaches I've been around. He has a natural and authentic enjoyment for coaching. You can see the passion and the love for the game that he has, but also, he spreads that passion onto the players. And, as being a player at this level, you want to see your coach have the same energy and enthusiasm that you do for the game, seeing that in your coach. And one of the things I think he has does a great job of is he challenges us in the right way. He gets to know you. And that's another thing is it doesn't really seem like a boss employee relationship. It seems more so like, a relationship where you're going to have, somebody that you respect challenge you each and every day in the right way. And he does a fantastic job. Like he'll go out there and run routes with the receivers. He'll throw the ball to the DBs. And so for me, those are like small little gems that, as a player, I love, because it's your coach being active and being interactive. And his ability to act, interact, and respond is great too. There were some times in the last two seasons where as a player you're like, dang, what's going to happen? We were under 3 games for 2 seasons in a row before the bye. And you see Coach McVay, he still has the same belief that he did when we were losing, when we're winning. And if you have a coach at the figurehead that doesn't ride the emotional wave, it's easy to jump on that train and say, "Hey, we're going full force for it." Because this is a coach that believes in us, not only as a player, but as a person. And I think that's what means a lot.
Yeah, it's just seeing him like pace up and down the sidelines is always so funny to me. And
Yeah.
I don't know if he still does, but I think for the longest time he had like a dedicated person that would like hold him back because he would get
Yeah.
too excited and like step onto the field. Listen,
They call it get back coach.
get back coach. Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. Um, just a ton of respect, and it's always interesting. Like, and that's why I ask, like, what is he like behind the scenes? Because as fans, we see Sean McVay on the sidelines, but and maybe we see a couple clips here and there. But obviously, like your relationship with him is a lot different than any fan's relationship, just from watching him on TV or seeing some clips on social media. So it's always interesting to hear like just that coach. And listen, I've asked other athletes too who have had the exact opposite, kind of perspective on previous coaches of theirs, where I don't know. Coaching is also one of those like it's one of those skills that, in my opinion, either you have it or you don't. Like it's very difficult to learn if you don't have a lot of the prerequisite skills. Like there is like how do you teach someone passion, for example?
You can't.
You can't do that. And
Yeah.
so it's cool to hear that Sean is like that
Yeah.
always.
I don't want to get butchered for this, but I remember it. It's work, enthusiasm, mindset, energy. Just so we have it on the record, because I do not want to get flamed. I blanked out. It happens, but I do remember it. But yeah, Sean, Coach McVay, fantastic. Has a passion for it. Um, it is infectious each and every day. He comes in consistent. And the thing we talked about consistently comes in each and every day with the same energy, enthusiasm, and
Yeah.
I love it. It makes coming into work, and it's crazy that you call football work, but it makes coming into work that much more enjoyable when you have a coach like that be so bought in to everybody.
Good thing you remember that acronym because I was going to send it to him after this.
Yeah,
So
please.
I
Oh
know
my
what
God, Jack, I've recovered. I'm recovered. Holy.
um, Quentin, I want to ask you, man. You're a captain,
Yeah.
which is a huge deal for you, and it's a two-part question. First part, you called your dad, or maybe your dad called you. I
Yeah.
forget which one. After
Yeah, I called him. I called him.
so you called your dad after you got the captain, after you named team captain.
Mm-hmm.
Just what was that like? You don't have to share the full conversation, but obviously, I'm assuming a big moment for you and your dad.
Yeah.
And then, second part of the question: what do you see as responsibilities as a captain?
Yeah. So that moment was wild, and obviously there's a whole story behind it. But I think the reason why it was kind of crazy for me is I was so immersed in just being the best version of myself each and every day that captain wasn't even on my mind. And then, your teammates ended up voting you captain. You're like, dang, all the work I put in, people are seeing it. Not only is work being put in, but they respect me. They want me to have the C on my chest. And it's kind of crazy because I wouldn't be the player that I am today without the people in the building, my teammates, coaches, staff, everybody. And so when that moment happened, I ended up calling my dad because, I just felt like I needed to tell somebody. I needed somebody to hear this. So I called him, and it's funny. The thing that I will always remember about this conversation was he said, dang, you got captain in year 3. It took me 10 years to get that. And I was like, that was funny. And we had a laughing moment about that. But um, that was a moment, getting named team captain, and then that phone call I had right after with my dad was awesome. And then in terms of the responsibility is why change? The reason you got captain was because of what you were doing. Now, there are some ways you can, affect people now. There are your words hold a little bit more value. And so, me as a person, as a player, that doesn't change. But is okay, how can I kind of bring people with me, bring my teammates with me? And that's something that I had to kind of understand and learn is, I have the ability to uplift people in a positive way, whether it's through my actions, through encouraging words and all that stuff. And so that was necessary. That was kind of the responsibility I had to understand is you are now this guy that people look at to, hey, is he doing it the right way? Well, if Q's doing it, I'm gonna do it. If I'm handling my stuff, whether it's on the field or off the field, everybody kind of it's the same infectious way because when you're a captain by nature, that's just who you look at as a player, whether it's a rookie, whether it's another teammate that's been in the league, in the league a long time, you kind of automatically look at who are kind of the guys that we voted as players as captain. How are they doing it? And so, you also have to find your voice. Finding your voice is another very, very important part about having that responsibility too. How do you talk to guys? How can you encourage guys with your words? I was never a hoorah guy, but I had to realize that there is a way to talk to players, and also getting to know players makes the communication a lot easier too. And so those were kind of the challenges or responsibilities that I found being in my first year as captain. And now going, hopefully going into my second year. They do new voting all the time, but you know, we'll just say for the sake of the conversation, going into year two as a captain, now can I repeat it? Can I do it again? Can I bring players more? Are there certain instances where I can kind of bring the team together? And I think that's going to be a challenge for me that I'm, going to take on headstrong into this year.
How do you how do you balance? So you talk about like uplifting guys, bringing guys along. I'm assuming like if you're going through a tough game, or if the defense is having a tough game in particular, you want to be the voice that says, hey guys, let's keep going, we got this. But it's also tough because like people, like different people respond to different, you know, respond differently to words of encouragement or certain types of like leadership tactics. So it's interesting for you because like you're dealing with a whole defense
Mm-hmm.
and you're trying to uplift everyone at once so you guys
Mm-hmm.
can all reach your full potential together.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like that's almost impossible because everyone's personality is different. And like
Yeah.
you might tell some guy like, "Hey man, you're doing great, keep it up," and they might get mad at that for whatever reason. And now you
Yeah.
failed and
Yeah.
they're nowhere. So like, how do you? Just like in the during the heat of a game, during an intense battle, we brought up the Thursday night game against the Niners. That was a battle. I think it ended up being like
Yeah.
9-6. So like how like during those type of games, like how do you rally the troops?
Just being yourself. Yeah, man, these guys are like every single football player is a dog, and they can smell when you're not being yourself. They can smell when you're fearful or when you're trying to be somebody other than yourself. So in those moments when you're kind of trying to rally the troops, is just be authentic and true to who you are, and how you express that. It will come, you know, but don't be or say something that's like, what is he on? What, like, why is he saying that? Then it's like completely like, guys, that's when kind of things turn. But if you're doing it in a way that's who you are, they'll be like, okay, Q's that's who Q is. Like, we understand it, we get it, we're just gonna rally around him. He's telling us this thing right now. We respect it, let's roll. And like I said before, also having that personal connection and trying to form more of a personal connection, kind of like off the field, will let you understand, like, okay, if I do need to take a player to the side, or if I do need to have, a conversation when it's not the whole team, I know how to address that.
Couple more questions, man, and then we'll close off the podcast. How do you think your teammates will describe you?
Man, everybody calls me Cat. That's
Cat, all right.
Cat. But I would just say intellectual, um, intellectual and instinctual. And I think what I would hope would be reliable. Um, I pride myself on being in the right position at the right time to make a play, and also, having guys look at me as, hey, he's gonna do his job. I don't need to worry about him. He's reliable. I can trust in him. He'll have my back, all that stuff. So I would say that, my teammates could look at me and really say, hey man, Q's a reliable player.
For your position, right, as safety, you talked about the incredible amount of film study that you do.
Hmm.
Like, is your goal with all that film study to prepare you so that during a game you are in the right position at the right time, and if they come out in this certain formation and it's second and medium, they have a tendency to do this? Like, what the point of the question is, like
Yeah.
what level are you trying to reach during a
Yeah.
game?
Yeah, you answered it. It is really building the confidence to go out there and cut it loose. And if you see it, go get it. So, you build this. It's almost, you're doing your homework. You're doing your homework. You're doing your homework. The test comes on Sunday. You see the question that's being asked, and you're so confident in that answer, you don't even look back. And it's the same thing with football. You're looking at offensive tendencies. Okay, what are they going to do then? What are they going to do in this formation? What are they going to do in this other formation? And then when you see it on Sunday, you're like, this is the answer to the test, and let me just go get it. So it's kind of almost, it's like you're taking calculated risks. That's how I would describe it. So all that film study is just really to give you the confidence so that when you do see something, you have the confidence to go make the play. And that's all it is. Now, people say like it's not going to be all black and white. There's going to be some gray, but there I would tell you that you'll have one or two moments where you will see it. The tough thing about football is you can see it, know it's gonna happen, but the ball might not come your way either. And that's just like dang, and then you might not have another situation like that for a long time. So that's another thing too. It's like it's not defeating, but it's just like, you're like, oh my god, I wish they threw it on this play, or I wish this, or wish that. But the reason why you study so much is now you have more opportunities, so that if you do see different stuff, okay, if they do throw it this time, it's not like you're studying for one question on the test. You're kind of studying for multiple questions on the test to make sure that you're at least 95 out of the 100 questions you can get right. So that's why, you study so much is, it gives you that preparation confidence.
You're like, damn, I knew that Purdy was going to do the in route to Ayuk
Yeah,
on second
yeah.
and 9, but it didn't come. He
It
chucked it
didn't
off
come. Yeah,
to.
but oh wait, I see another formation. They're gonna throw to Kittle. Maybe I can go get this one. And then if they do throw it, you look like a hero. But it's just all that film study that went in during the week.
Two more questions, man. How real is the divisional thing? Because it gets talked about a lot, and obviously with football, I think it is a big deal. But just from a
Yeah.
player's perspective, how big of a deal is it?
Yeah, those divisional games, especially later in the season, are like playoff games. Like, because if you think about it, you can go, you could go. If you win all your divisional games, you're gonna go to the playoffs, and at that point, it's just getting in the dance. So we talking about it all the time in terms of the importance of the playoff games, and you can feel it. You can feel the intensity and the magnitude of those games when you're playing them. So there's that divisional stuff. It is real, real deal.
Last question, man. You recently said that the 2025 Rams offense will be reminiscent of the greatest show on turf,
Hmm.
which is quite the statement. Obviously, you guys got a little known wide receiver in the offseason, Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
You got Puka, who has very quickly become arguably top 5, if not top 3 guy in the league.
Hmm.
You have Matthew Stafford. So I see on paper why you would say that, but
Yeah.
I'm curious as to your reasoning why you think the Rams offense will be unstoppable in 2025.
Well, now you have guys that have been in this system a long time. Puka's going on his third year. Kyron's going on his fourth. Devontae, he's a seasoned veteran. He'll pick up the offense very quickly. And then you got Stafford, who has been with McVay for I think 5 years now, right? 5 years, yeah.
Ooh,
20.
maybe, yeah.
So
Because
he
he,
came in 21. So going on, that'd be yeah 5.
I guess going on 5,
21,
yeah.
21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you have guys that have been in the system now, guys that are at the top of their position. So the reason why I made that statement was I can see it. I can see why there could be a little bit of, they might have the most yards in all the statistics just due to the fact that they have a very, very good core group. Um, and I have high expectations, man. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to watch because you've seen these players from afar. You've seen the work that they put in. And so, is it, is it a big statement to say? Yeah, but at the same time, I wholeheartedly believe in these guys. And, the same thing in terms of, all the topics that we've talked about today, consistency, preparation, the amount of work that's been put in. The reason why I say that is, I think they can do it, and I do believe in them. So it should be interesting this season. I have high hopes, um, but yeah, I'm excited. I really, really, really am excited.
Well, don't sleep on your defense too, man. I mean, Fisk is another,
Yeah,
another year in the league. Verse, who
yeah.
dominate. Listen, I'm an FSU guy, so seeing both of those guys play well was definitely cool.
You must just
Obviously,
like those colors then, that kind of like reddish, goldish
yeah, I
coloring.
think that's what it is.
That's what
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is.
yeah. There you go.
Yeah,
They obviously got you back there, so
yeah,
and then there's rumors that Ramsey might want to come back.
yeah.
So like, you guys got a squad, and for all the joking around, it's always fun having someone in the division who's also up to your level. So it'll be fun,
Yeah.
fun playing against you guys.
That-
Um, Real quick, man, Stafford. I mean, what's what's he like?
Uh, it depends on what you're asking.
Like, because I Stafford to me seems like the epitome of just like a what's the phrase? It's like lunch pail type of guy. Like comes in, does his work, never complains, is always going to outwork everyone else. Just attention to detail, like all those things seem like they apply to Stafford.
Yep. I mean, it is that way. You're surprised that he's hilarious though. Like, you'll catch him in certain moments. You're like, oh yeah. Like like he's said some jokes that I've laughed at him, but the same way, man. That same lunch pail, hardworking. But I think the biggest thing, he's just a fucking dog. Like straight out, like he's just a dog. Like to be able to do it at the consistency that he has year in and year out. I mean, the arm talent is insane. His knowledge of the game is insane. And then you look at a guy like he's tough as nails. He'll take crazy hits. You're like, oh my gosh, and get up, and he'll talk a little bit too, and you're like, oh, okay, like, and that just gets the team going when you see your quarterback doing stuff like that. So, yeah, man, great teammate, great person, great father. Um, I hope he plays for the Rams as long as I'm there too, because he is one hell of a quarterback.
I think when you guys were playing the Lions in the playoffs, there's this one hit that he took, and the camera showed the replay, and like his eyes rolled to the back
Yeah.
of his head, and like he got up and he was like fired up, and I
Mhm.
was like, dude, I think they would just pronounce me dead. Like if I
Yeah,
took a hit like
yeah,
that, and like
yeah,
my eyes were in the back of my head,
yeah,
I'd be like, just bury me.
yeah,
So, nah, ton of respect for Stafford. Quentin, man, this has been awesome. It's
yeah,
been so cool getting to know you, dude, and picking your brain. And I feel like we touched on a lot. I mean, obviously, kind of how you approach the game, not only from like a physical standpoint, but also mentally, and just your attention to detail and everything that you've been able to accomplish. Just like your dad said, man, in 3 years, from a sixth-round draft pick to team captain of the Rams, is absolutely insane. So kudos to you for all the work that you've put in
appreciate
and
that, man.
all the success. And it's been awesome getting to know you a little bit here. For people that want to get to know you better, though, like where can they find you?
Biggest thing is Instagram, Q Lake with two E's, or Twitter, Quentin_Lake. Find me there. Reach out if you guys have any questions. Want to get to know me better. I'm an open book. So, yeah. Um, this was awesome, Nicola. Thank you so much for having me on. This was fantastic. Um, I'm glad to be able to share any football knowledge or just different perspective, especially, being a guy that kind of had a little bit of a different story in the NFL. So love
Yeah,
telling my story too. And you definitely had some fantastic questions in there that I was like, wow, that's a great question. So no, this is great.
I appreciate it, man. No, definitely
Of course.
appreciate it. Definitely be expecting a DM from me if the Niners when the Niners beat the Rams.
Oh,
Expect a
okay,
DM from
okay.
me when Brock Purdy throws for 400 and 3 touchdowns. Especially if you get burned. So if you get
Oh
burned,
man.
just know the DM is coming.
Oh no, and likewise too though. If I get a pick or a pick six, that DM's coming straight right after the game. I'm right there. I'm blah, blah.
On the sidelines.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a big fine. Don't do that. That's a
uh,
$50,000 fine. Do not do that.
50,000
Yeah, do
if you have
not
your
do
phone
that.
on the sideline.
Don't do that.
Dang.
Yeah, it's
All right,
bad.
so not on the sideline after the game.
After the game, for sure. I got you.
Yeah. No, dude. Thanks again for coming on, and hopefully stay in touch.
Of course, man. Thank you so much.
Peace.
Cool.